Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, Patsun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/infidelity, where OP's girlfriend has been cut off by everyone after her affair got exposed at a wedding. Let's begin. Our first story is from Reddit user Shadow Sovereign 2.
So I and my girlfriend, technically ex-girlfriend, had a relationship for 1 year. About a month ago, she got in an accident and slipped boiling water on herself. On her call, I came back home and took her to the hospital, and after she was okay, we returned back to our house. After the incident, she was always distant to me and didn't even let me see her without clothes. So I tried to talk with her about it, and she just told me that it wasn't my fault. She just felt insecure about the scars that she got due to accident. After that, I tried several stuff to make her feel less insecure. Even asked for advice on Reddit and used some of those tricks too, but none of them worked. She was still distant to me. Yesterday I show her medical report, which she got that morning, and found she had an STD. She didn't have any STD when the accident happened, and after that, we never made love, so it was clear she was screwing someone else. So I confronted her about it, and as soon as I mentioned it, she started crying and told me that she screwed with her coworker. I felt heartbroken, and she was crying and begging for another chance and kept telling me that it was a one-time thing. No matter how much she begged for a second chance or gave excuses for her action, cheating was not at all acceptable for me. So I told her that she has time till today's morning, 10 a.m., to pack up her stuff and leave my house. She just cried the whole night in our room, screaming and begging for a second chance, but I couldn't care less. I thought making her leave wasn't enough and wanted revenge. So when she was leaving, trying to talk to me for last time and asking to forgive her, I called her boss, who is a good friend of mine, and explained to him the situation and told him to make sure she gets fired. To my surprise, they have a policy of no dating between employees, so both my ex and the guy were fired. Later this evening, she came to my shop with a common friend of ours who tried to convince me to forgive her and take her back. To which I just replied, "Let me fuck your wife and see if you take her back or not." They left my shop immediately after that. She was in tears when she left.
Our second story is posted by Reddit user ThrowRA Just Broken.
So I met my girlfriend, Karen, 5 years ago after she left her abusive boyfriend and moved back in with her parents and her small child. She dropped out of college when he got her pregnant her senior year, and he cheated and was physically abusive until she finally left him. We got introduced by one of her sorority sisters who married a friend of mine, Dave. We connected and dated for a few months, and she and her son, Bobby, ended up moving in with me.
By the end of this, you are going to be crying like a little bitch.
The first few years were great. I got her to go back and finish her degree, and my dad got her a job where he works. About a year and a half ago, Karen reunited with some of her sorority sisters, and they started having a girls' night out every other Saturday, and she was also having drinks after work with some of her coworkers occasionally. And when I said something about it, she got defensive, and we started arguing about it. Angie told her husband Dave that Karen was flirting a lot when they were out, to the point it started to bother her, and Dave gave me a heads up about it. So on one of their girls' night, I showed up at the bar and saw her flirting and letting a guy put his hands on her. I walked up and asked the guy to take his hand off my girlfriend and told Karen it was time to leave. It was an ugly drive home, and we fought, and she ended up sleeping on the couch. The next morning she apologized and said had a little too much to drink and got carried away. I said that wasn't good enough, and if we were going to stay together, we were going to have to go to counseling together and work through this.
That's stupid! You're stupid! Stop being stupid!
Obviously, the girls' night out was over for a while, and we made progress, and things got better. 2 months ago, I could tell she was starting to act sketchy, being over-paranoid with her phone and leaving the room when she would use it. I tried to talk with her, but she was just evasive and denied anything was wrong. I talked with Angie and Dave about my suspicions, and Angie finally said that Karen had been talking with an old boyfriend from college, and they had been flirting. When Angie called her out on it, Karen stated if she could keep both of them happy and I didn't find out, then what was the harm? She said I was a great provider and great with Bobby, and she didn't want to lose that, but she needed more. Needless to say, that was devastating, but according to Angie, the old boyfriend lived in Houston, so there was no way they had anything physical, just long-distance flirting. One of Karen's sorority sisters asked her to be a bridesmaid at her wedding, and we made plans to go, but Bobby developed an ear condition and was supposed to have tubes installed, and so he couldn't fly there with us, and I volunteered to stay with him while she went. It was a 3-day event with rehearsal dinner, bachelorette party, shower, and the event day itself. After the rehearsal dinner, Dave called and said Karen's old boyfriend had showed up, and the two were hanging out and being very indiscreet. He sent me a couple of photos, including a short video of them making out at the hotel. I called Karen's father and asked if he could watch Bobby so I could drive down for the wedding, and I dropped Bobby off on the way out of town. It was a very long 6-hour drive, and I finally got there late that evening. I got to her room and could hear laughing inside, and I knocked on the door. After the third knock, Karen opened the door in her robe, and I walked in to find a guy naked in her bed. I introduced myself and advised him he should leave quickly. I turned and saw that Karen was undressed under the robe and asked her to explain herself. She got mad and then made excuses and then accusations. I finally said enough. I told her we were through. I said I was leaving, and if she decided to come back, she could get her things and get out of my life. As I walked back into the hall, there were a dozen or so people there, including Angie. We had never closed the door to the room, and as loud as we got, I'm sure we put on a pretty good show. I drove back and got home about the time the sun came up and crashed hard. The next morning, I started boxing up all her clothes, but when I came to her lingerie drawer with all the sexy stuff we had bought, I threw all that into a different box, along with her party and club wear, and sent it off to Goodwill. A couple of days later, when her flight got back, she called me from the airport, but her number was still blocked, so she had to Uber home. When she walked in, there were over a dozen boxes sitting in the living room with all of her and Bobby's stuff ready to go. I told her Bobby was at her parents' house and she could call her dad and have him help haul the rest of her stuff to his house or wherever she planned on staying. She tried to talk her way out of it, but I wasn't listening to her stories. She tried to load her suitcases in the car, but her key fob wouldn't work. I told her both cars were in my name, and if she tried to take one of them, I would report it as stolen. Her dad finally showed up, and I gave him the short story on why we were breaking up. He didn't say a lot, but we shook hands before he left. All that was a week ago. Dave and Angie have cut contact with Karen. Evidently, our drama spilled over the next day at the ceremony and overshadowed the wedding. Karen reached out and we talked a couple of times, but I said there was no way back for us. Even so, she refuses to give up on us. Right now, I just have this hollow feeling inside. I eat, go to work, come home and try to sleep. I'm not mad anymore, just numb, maybe a little sad and confused on what to do next. Sorry for the long post. Talking about it out loud is so hard, and it felt good to let it all out. Edit. For clarification, the guy at the wedding was not Bobby's dad, just a guy she dated in college. She was actually in a very physically abusive relationship with Bobby's dad. That included a couple of ER visits. The last one, Angie was the one that drove her to the hospital. So that was nor hearsay. The cheating I have no proof, nor does Angie, just Karen's story. And now for OP's update. Thanks for the words of support. I thought I would post an update since several of you had asked. Dad texted me this morning and said Karen got let go this morning. She took it like a true diva. They had a security guard watch her pack her personal things and walked her out the door. Eventually, I'm sure the blame will be mine. Wednesday, I finally got all her stuff out of the house and blocked her on everything. I got a letter in the mail Thursday, 2 pages of how she made a terrible mistake, and she just thought she needed to get some stuff out of her system so she could fully devote herself to me. A lot of pleading and promises. I got an email from the maid of honor thanking me for our gift and her condolences after the incident at the hotel. The affair partner had a girlfriend who was not at any of the pre-event functions but flew in for the ceremony and heard the stories of the days leading up to the wedding. She was expecting to attend the wedding with the affair partner, but he was a no-show. After talking with Karen's dad again, we both came to the conclusion that it was better if I just stepped out of Bobby's life. That way Karen couldn't use him as a pawn and really mess with his head, and Bobby could move on and adjust to his new norm. Her dad asked me some pretty direct questions and wanted details I would have preferred to leave out. He was both sad and angry. I think that the special daddy-daughter bond took some major damage. I had one of Karen's sorority sisters reach out to me, and we had dinner. She said, with what I did for her, I deserved so much better. She went on about how Karen embarrassed herself and how none of them wanted anything to do with her now. The rest of the dinner was about me and how I was feeling. What was I doing to get past this and move on? By dessert, it had moved to if I needed to talk, grab a drink, or maybe a movie to give her a call. I have rearranged all my rooms and threw out some decorative stuff and replaced it with something different. I also replaced most of the lighting with remote LEDs and added some colored backlighting. So the house has a different feel and look to it now. The next plan is to repaint Bobby's room and make a guest room out of it. I upgraded gyms and signed up for some personal training, and I have a cute trainer that I think is trying to kill me. Just trying to fill my time so I don't sit and think too much and fall back into the rabbit hole. Going out tonight to our favorite watering hole and hanging out with some friends.
Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.